Today, I want to cover Jeffrey Epstein, and more specifically, the birthday book. If you do not remember, it came out a couple of months ago that there was a birthday book and that Trump had written a page in it. And he denied it. He said he doesn't draw pictures, it doesn't sound like him, and I think that's all incorrect. But the actual birthday book has just recently been released. And so what I want to do is take a look at a Breaking Points video where they basically show the actual printing of it, so the actual Donald Trump's page, and then as well as talk about why, yes, this is probably a valid, yes, Trump did create this page for Jeffrey Epstein in his 50th birthday book. So we'll take a look at that, and then I'll provide my thoughts on it as well.
Okay, turning now to Epstein, some extraordinary new information being released by the House Oversight Committee. You'll all remember the story about the so-called birthday book for Jeffrey Epstein, which included a letter, allegedly, from Donald Trump. The White House claimed that it was a forgery, that it was a fake, that it didn't exist. The Wall Street Journal was actually sued, Rupert Murdoch and others, by Donald Trump personally for defamation, claiming that no such letter ever existed. They said that they never even showed them the letter. Well, the letter has now been released to the House Oversight Committee. It is part of several pages now released by the Oversight Committee from the so-called birthday book directly from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. So let's make that very clear. This was from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, this so-called birthday book that was compiled by Ghislaine Maxwell, has a lot of other luminaries and other interesting people, but the allegation from the White House now is that it's a fake letter, which was actually planted in the Epstein estate, I guess, from the year 2003. And since that time has bubbled up, that forgery to where we are right now. So just.
And what a just wild and insane claim. First of all, I just don't know how they believe that anyone would believe this, especially after originally there is no birthday book. Now it was implanted in the birthday book. Like, this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I'm glad it came out, right? Again, it gives me another chance to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. I think it needs to continual pressure on it. This is just wild, though. I don't know how they can, with all of their back and forth and saying one thing and then saying something totally contradictory. This is, again, just an outstanding claim that, oh yeah, they cared so much about trying to incriminate Trump. Forget talking about all the other people who have creepy entries in this book. That's point number one. Like, if you can go out and actually review it for yourself, it's something like 250 pages. Forget any conversation around that. Well, Donald Trump's entry was implanted in there. Okay, well, what about all these other entries? What about, is there going to be any action on any of this? Like, this is just, it's completely wild.
Presenting that, and we'll get to some of the White House denials in a second, but let's take a look at the letter, which was described for us only by the Wall Street Journal. Let's go ahead and put B4, please, up on the screen, so you can all see it now for yourself. There it is, and I'll remind you kind of the weird cryptic poem that was written there in typeface, voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything. Donald, yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey, nor will I, since I know what it is. Donald, we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald, enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me since the last time I saw you. Donald, a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. May every day be another wonderful secret. Donald J. Trump, with a signature there listed. So B5, please, just to go and show everybody.
And it's just wild. Like, if you look at it's so weird because, first of all, there's no arms. I mean, forget the content of it, right? The content is creepy and strange. It could be explained off if you know the whole, if you're deep into the weeds of everything. Between the two of them, they kind of shared a girlfriend at one point in time. Like, they were both dating the same person. So, like, this could, I guess, be explained off by that. But just the picture itself, like, The figure has no arms, which is incredibly strange. And then also the breasts are so, I mean, like if you think about it, boobs come in all sizes. These ones seem particularly small, which given the predilections of Jeffrey Epstein is not particularly reassuring. It's concerning, to say the least. So, again, just the picture alone is kind of disturbing. Like, it's very strange, and I don't know. It's, I'm sure someone could psychoanalyze this and tell you a whole bunch of things, but yeah, just to me, it's very concerning.
So B5, please, just to go and show everybody. The initial understanding and statement from the White House is, quote, time to News Corp to open that checkbook. It's not his signature. Defamation in all caps. That is from Taylor Budowich. He is the Deputy White House Chief of Staff and a cabinet secretary there over at the White House. A little bit of an issue, though, because in the New York Times story and the Wall Street Journal, they've actually released other side-by-side photos of Trump's signature from that time period, and they do appear to look very similar. So not a signature expert, obviously, or any of that. You can judge.
That's kind of a silly argument. I think not everyone, right? It's going to vary, but I think signatures can change over time. And I think it's not so vastly different. Like, yes, the D is a little less sharp if you're looking at it, but the signatures are not so vastly different that you would say this is a completely different person. Like, there's still very, there's rigidity to some of the lines. There's the long D on the Donald. So yeah, it's a very weak argument to say the least.
It all for yourselves, but certainly some of the story about how allegedly this is a fake doesn't pass some of the smell tests, considering that it does come from the Epstein estate itself. By the way, in terms of who leaked this, it's very interesting originally, because Krystal, some of the things that have now come out from the Epstein estate that were released by the House Oversight Committee appear to actually have been a part of some exhibits in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. So that birthday book has probably had access both by U.S. prosecutors and the FBI, some since 2019, but also obviously available to the Ghislaine Maxwell legal team. So still lots of speculation as to who originally leaked it, but we can all go read it for ourselves. I was reading some of it.
I've heard speculation as well that it was released from Jeffrey's brother, because, again, if you haven't been following along, essentially his brother, I mean, when it happened that his brother was most likely murdered in jail, he then was saying it's murder, he didn't commit suicide. And so that was when he was making a big stink about it originally. And then it kind of died down when I think he realized nothing is going to come of this. And then, so would it be surprising that as this is all bubbling up again recently, well, hey, oh, by the way, I'm going to release the birthday book. First, I'm going to leak the, Donald Trump's page. But then, okay, well, I'm going to actually, send it out as well to prove that this is actually what's happening. Who knows, that could be it. Or as they're saying, it could be something from Ghislaine to try and get herself better accommodations, is like actually threatening to release more. Who knows? It could be any of these things, but from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein kind of makes me think it was his brother that had released it
this morning. It's unbelievably creepy.
It's disgusting.
And this is like, I'm taking Trump out of this. Trump was one of many included, with lewd and creepy, disgusting messages from literally some of the world's richest, most powerful people. They're all writing in some sort of secret code. We have little children, cartoon drawings. And I mean, I'm not exaggerating. Emily and I will fully go through some of this stuff tomorrow, but obviously the headline here is specifically about Trump and his denial, and is part of the reason why, immediately they started saying that all the Epstein files themselves were a hoax. But you can see here, the story's not going away, and it's becoming more inconvenient for the White House and for everybody else who has touched this man over the years.
And what I'll say about the book in general, like I said, you can go out and find it. It is readily available. It is very, very disturbing, though, some of the things in there. And if you had any doubts of, no one knew, no, this makes it very clear. Anyone in that book knows what he did and was probably somehow involved in it as well. Because to Saagar's point, yeah, when you're talking in coded language, and again, it's an acknowledgement and a proof point that we can't talk about these things in the open public because they're not acceptable, right? Again, children, we're dealing with children here, inappropriate relationships with children. Well, then we're going to have coded language, and all of these people are aware of it who are writing in this book, or at least a good proportion of them. And it's very disgusting. There are pictures of young children who, I don't know if their parents were planning on grooming and sending them to him or whatever it was. It's absolutely disgusting. And I think you need to see it for yourself, because it is, when it's an abstract and you don't have to think about it, and it's just, they did these things and whatever. It's not, no. When you actually see what you're talking about and see how perverse and how just everyone is implicated in it, and how many people, and how it's 250 pages. It's absolutely disgusting, and you can't unsee some of the things in there.
That was an interesting choice of language there at the end.
I used it correctly.
Well, with regard to who leaked it, I mean, it is worth noting that since Ghislaine Maxwell got her little cushy move to her low security Club Fed, and she had her nice little conversation with the deputy AG, we haven't gotten any more leaks now, have we? So that is an interesting thing to note. Can we put the B4 back up on the screen? Because many people are noting this did not look the way that we expected it to look. It is even more disturbing to see in person. I thought that there's sort of an assumption when you think of like a grown man drawing a female shape. You expect giant boobs. That's what I'm trying to say. Now listen, I appreciate the inclusivity of the small-breasted woman community, okay? However, many are also pointing out this actually looks like a prepubescent girl. So when you have the president of the United States.
Yes, as I said, right, with the small boobs and just the way that they're sitting there, and yeah, it's concerning to say the least. But another thing, and as I was mentioning with the arms, the way it's shaped, it kind of looks like it could also, again, a very generous interpretation, it could be a mannequin as well, right? Because as it's sitting there, there's clothes on it. But I think given the context of the text in it, and now it's like a weird, it's just very creepy. I'm not sure I go along with that. But that's just another thing that kind of strikes me visually as I'm looking at this, is it looks kind of like a mannequin, but again, given the text of it and given Jeffrey Epstein's history, I'm not certain that I do not buy into that at all, but it was just something that's kind of striking to me. But yeah, to her point, and exactly as I had said, yeah, the smaller boobs, breasts on this picture, this depiction, is very concerning given the history that we know Jeffrey Epstein has.
writing in this creepy ass code about the secrets they have in common and enigmas, etc. May every day be another wonderful secret. On this image, it is very hard to come up with what an innocent explanation of what he is referring to is. Especially, Saagar, to your point, when you put it in context of the rest of the book, which is fucking disgusting. Can put B8 up on the screen to give you a little taste of what we're talking about in this book. You can see here a cartoon drawing of Jeffrey Epstein handing balloons to little girls in the year, they say 1983, and then in 2003, the present day, him receiving massage from, girls who are unclothed or barely clothed. And it says, "What a great country." So seemingly a cartoon depiction of his grooming.
Literally. I mean, it's a literal cartoon version of grooming.
Yeah.
Including one of the girls with a JE tattoo.
Oh, I didn't even notice that one on her ass. Yeah. And
disgusting, first of all. But yeah, I mean, this literally spells it out in no uncertain terms that this is what he was doing, that he was explicitly targeting underage girls and then grooming them all the way up. And I think that's the part in the book that is concerning as well. As I mentioned, there's photos of what is clearly underage girls in there, and that's exactly it. Even if you want to say no one thing is exactly calling it, it's points on a graph pointing in a direction, and you can make a line. That's what the problem is, because again, you have this with the grooming. There's pictures of girls who are underage in the book in just weird poses. Like, that's why I say look at it yourself, because I think when you see it, it is undeniable that this was not a good guy, and the fact that Trump has an entry in the book with weird coded language, not good at all. And the other thing too, if you're breaking this down, is you can look at it, you see the airplane, that could be a nod at his Lolita Express, right? His airplane that he would fly people around on, including Donald Trump, quite a few times, multiple times. And then you have the estate behind him, which who knows what exactly it's entailing. It could be his island or something else, and it's again just very concerning. And in the grown girls' images, you're seeing them topless. You're seeing them essentially in thongs. Like, this is not, again, very depraved, very disgusting, especially when you're drawing it in contrast. Even just that by itself is like, all right, this is kind of weird, right? But then in contrast with these young girls on the left versus the right.
I mean, if you look at all of these, many of them are indecipherable because they are all speaking in this weird, like, eyes wide shut code. So the impression you come away with is a whole friend group of extremely powerful and wealthy individuals. Les Wexner has his contribution in here, many others besides.
Leon Black. Yeah.
Who all know what's going on and are at the very least aware, if not directly participating. That is very much the impression you come away from if you spend 5 minutes looking at this disgusting book.
Yeah. And that's very true as well, is at the very least aware of, right? If you're talking in this coded language, and that's the point, is they know that what he's involved in is illegal. So why would they be talking in this way to try and skirt, oh, if this ever gets found out, I'm not going to be implicated that I knew. But you knew. Like, you knew. That's the issue with it. Like, it's pretty much undeniable. And I think that's what's so concerning about Trump being with him. Yes, he cut him off after he took someone from Mar-a-Lago, but at the exact same time, you knew, man. Like, I don't know what to say, right? Again, as the most generous interpretation, he knew what he was up to. He wrote a creepy entry in there, like, you knew. So, and if you're telling me that there is no other connection, like you didn't party with him and also saw Bill Gates or Bill Clinton or Les Wexner or all these people, if you have before, you have some idea, if you're Trump, you have to have some idea of the other types of people who are associated with Jeffrey Epstein. And so if you're to have any sort of moral high ground at all, you should be immediately going after these people, even if you had nothing to do with it. Because as I see it, when this is happening, even if you didn't do anything, you knew these other people were participating as well, especially the creepier entries, and you have a perfect path where you should be going after these people aggressively. And the only reason that I can come up with that you're not doing it is because you were implicated in it as well, and you participated as well. Because otherwise you'd be prosecuting all of these people to the fullest extent of the law, or going after them, or whatever. And so the fact that you're not doing that says to me loud and clear, you're involved.
Yeah, look, it's all public. You can all go read it for yourselves. I encourage you to do. I mean, we'll just pick the craziest image. Tomorrow, I'll actually collate some others. By the way, some other interesting information that we can connect. We also have the Trump one that you mentioned. B7, please, we can put on the screen. Just goes to show, the kind of the crass nature that all these guys were talking to each other. So here it appeared to be some check, like one of those large novelty checks for $22,500 signed by somebody who signs it DJ Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. And the letter that was written is Jeffrey, showing early talents with many women, sells, quote, fully depreciated blank to Donald Trump for $22,500, showed early people skills too. Presumably in both of these cases, Michael Wolff has pointed to the fact that Epstein and Trump shared a girlfriend, which may be their wonderful secret and or their enigma / the depreciation. But this is the tone that they're using. And that's kind of what I want to highlight, is that every person in his orbit just very obviously was in on the, quote, secret. Mm-hmm. And look, I mean, many of these girls, like, I don't know. I mean, in some cases, they're pointing to like 18 to 22-year-olds, which is creepy, legal. But, there is a children's section actually of the book with handwritten notes literally from children, including one of what appears to be a teenage girl, of literally just photos of her like playing the piano. I mean, very, very disgusting to be included.
I mean, just imagine this, right? So you're 50 years old. And you'd think, okay, if there's a birthday book being put together, it'll have my friends and whatever, okay? That makes sense. Other similarly aged, give or take a few years, those are your friends. That makes sense. Having a birthday book put together, and there's entries from children, that is disturbing. And literally it makes no sense whatsoever. There's no justification for that. And if you're thinking about it from, and you can tell, like, it's literally children, because it's like very poorly drawn pictures, and the writing in it is not great, and the English and whatever, right? All those things that are cliche of children illustrations and or direct photographs. And so the problem with that is that even in the photograph sense, like of the girl who's playing, imagine her parents send it in. Why are they doing that? That is so strange, so creepy, so disgusting. And again, why does a birthday book for a 50-year-old man have a children's section in it? I would welcome in the comments, why is that? There is no explanation for it. I can't come up with one. I guarantee you can't. It is undefensible.
In the birthday book, I don't know if it was submitted by a parent. I don't know what it is, but like handwritten stuff also written to him in crayon and other types of drawings. So, I mean, I don't even have words for all of this. It is really, really gross.
It's disturbing. It's so disturbing.
connects to the political story as well, as the Republicans kind of scramble on how exactly to respond to this. My personal favorite was a new claim by Speaker of the House Mike Johnson that Trump was actually an FBI informant on Jeffrey Epstein. Let's play B1, guys. Take a listen.
He's not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who suffered these unspeakable harms. It's detestable to him. He and I have spoken about this as recently as 24 hours ago.
That's an extraordinary claim that Trump was an FBI informant. We have
insane, first of all, because to say something like that, like imagine the amount of like there's claims about that. I mean, it's already very far-fetched to say, oh yeah, he had nothing to do with it, it's a plant, but to claim he was an FBI informant, come on, absolutely just bonkers. What are you even saying, man? Like, it is so wild to make this sort of a claim because it is so easily falsifiable, so easy to prove that he is just completely full of shit. Like, I do not. Oh my god! It is baffling to me that you would say something like this. And I mean, I don't know if that was the only thing he could come up with. I don't know if someone mentioned it as like a possibility and he ran with it. But like, how are you the Speaker of the House? Like, get this dude out of here. What is he even talking about? Just completely baffling to me.
Not yet ever seen a single document or a release from the White House about that. By the way, remember, Trump himself said that he was mad at Jeffrey for stealing somebody from the massage, or what did he say, from the spa, which we believe is Virginia Giuffre, who was one of the individuals who said that she was.
He was asked about it, and he said, "Yeah, I believe so." He said, "Yeah, I believe that's who I'm talking about."
Okay, so, he said it. All right, I'm just taking that away. He's never mentioned being an FBI informant. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
People are saying he was a white hat pedophile, actually.
It's like, what? Like, what? B2, please, because Mike Johnson is now saying, guys, I misspoke, actually, about that. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
What I was referring to in that long conversation was what the victim's attorney said. More than a decade ago, President Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. And he was one of the only prominent people, as everyone has reported, not President Trump, but everybody about him, that he was willing to help law enforcement go after this guy who was a disgusting child abuser, sex trafficker, all the allegations. That's what they heard. So the president was helpful in that. I don't know if I use the right terminology, but that's common knowledge, and everybody knows that. So this is much ado about nothing.
Did the president tell you this?
That is a wildly different statement than he was an FBI informant. Like, one of them is like an actual position, right? Where you have actual credentials and like you can, okay. And the other one is just like, oh yeah, he told law enforcement, which okay. Like, I don't even know that that's actually true. But yeah, of course he had to backtrack this. The original statement was insane to begin with, like literally falsifiably untrue. So yeah, I mean, of course he's backtracking here. What a slimy, just scumbag, disgusting.
Specifically about his involvement?
I was recounting what others have said. The president and I have talked about the Epstein evils many times. He's as disgusted by it as everybody else. He has long had a history of acknowledging that, and he has said repeatedly.
Yeah. I bet you have had conversations with him, because with the way it's been handled so far, you all need to be on the same page. So yeah, I'm sure you have very, very common, consistent conversations about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and their relationship and how to talk about it publicly. Yeah, man, I'm sure you do.
Wants everything to come out, all credible information, everything for the American public to decide.
Was he ever asked to wear a wire or anything like that?
I have no idea. No, I'm not saying that. I have no information about that whatsoever. I was repeating what has been common knowledge for a long time. The president was
And that was a good question because, yeah, if he was wearing a wire, exactly. If he's an informant, he probably would have been asked to wear a wire. He probably, like, there are certain things that he would have had to do. So trying to label him as an informant to turn him into the good guy, again, it just does not hold water here.
It's helpful in trying to get Epstein, for the law enforcement to go after Epstein. That's always been my understanding. That's common knowledge. It's the public's understanding. I was not breaking news there, okay?
Common knowledge, not to me. And I follow this thing pretty damn closely, don't I? And it literally. So look, apparently this all stems from the attorney Brad Edwards, who, quote, confirmed that Trump had offered helpful information during the investigation. But that is a basically side quote from the Epstein victim lawyer. I don't even know what he's referring to. There's no.
And the other thing too is that is such a broad statement. Offered helpful information. Okay, well, imagine that they came, like the way that Mike Johnson presented it is wildly different from this, because this portion of it is like presenting helpful information could be they're going after Epstein, they come and they question Trump, and he provides some sort of like a nugget of like literally it could be, oh yeah, Jeffrey Epstein stole this girl that worked in the spa from Mar-a-Lago. Like literally, and oh, by the way, that's all I know about Jeffrey Epstein. Like that literally could be his statement. And so in that, they could run with it and say Donald Trump provided helpful information to law enforcement when he was being questioned. And again, it's literally just providing him the minimalist, okay, they're already going to know that this girl that they have is from Mar-a-Lago, so I'll tell them that just to reinforce the point, and then I'll tell them I don't know anything else. Like, but then to go from what that could be, that little statement, again, very vague, to, oh, he's an FBI informant. Come on, man. Come on. Like, get out of here.
Detail or any of that. And Mike Johnson spinned it into some sort of like grand gesture. But
yeah,
look, broadly, I mean, I think what this needs to fit into is every time that you think you know, because everyone knows to a certain extent. Oh, of course, everybody knew around him knew. But to see it in the cartoon, in the way that these guys all talk to him, it's really sickening. And especially when I pair it. Look, I mean, the pedophile stuff and all the other, and the creepy grooming behavior, etc., that Epstein was up to, that's the most salacious part, and that's kind of what everybody focuses on. But the part that I focus on is his connections to power, which enabled potentially, the sweetheart deal of 2007. Mm-hmm. And the heart of it is all in the money and potentially in intelligence connections, which remain, totally unexplored by the vast majority of the mainstream media. To their credit, they did actually publish a new investigation here. Can we put B3 up there? I highly recommend everybody go and read this, because this is really what I've been talking about now for several months about the Epstein case. This is the heart of all of it. The New York Times expose, B3, please, to put it up there on the screen. And what we learn from it is just and look, a lot of this was already public. So, I knew not much of this was new information to me, but they kind of put it all together. And it's, quote, how JP Morgan enabled the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. It details, people have heard me reference before, the Department of Financial Services fine of Deutsche Bank previously and their relationship to Epstein. But, the central character is this guy, Jess Staley, former CEO of Barclays, a JP Morgan executive previously, who worked hand in glove with Epstein over the years. I mean, Epstein was just enormously influential at this bank. He got away with stuff that nobody, not even high net worth individual people, are getting away with. Hundreds of millions of dollars. They processed nearly $1 billion in transactions in and out of his account. He's withdrawing hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. He's wiring money all over the globe for human trafficking purposes, according to their own internal review. JP Morgan executives and others who work on a human trafficking squad are like, we need to shut this down. And they're like, no. And the reason why is, at certain points, Epstein is enormously influential to introducing them to the highest and most powerful people in the world, including Bibi Netanyahu. I've released that email before, and for reference, but they reference it here. At one point, that Jess Staley is like, "Hey, we were able to secure a meeting with Netanyahu." This is, by the way, after Epstein has been convicted or has had the 2007 non-prosecution agreement that he, pleads guilty to, and Epstein is like, "Surprise, surprise," basically saying that he brokered the meeting. Obviously, that also includes his previous relationship with the Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, which is well known and which we have explored here on this show. But this is the heart of everything. And I want to give a shout out to Senator Ron Wyden.
And that goes back to the point that I was making before, in that he had all these connections, and it was just a very broad net that he had in hooks into all these different people. So much so that literally they're allowing him to essentially run rampant in their banking system, JP Morgan, and do all this. If you or I did one of the things that he had done, we would be essentially in jail for fraud, right? We'd be under investigation by the government. And so, yeah, they just allow him to flagrantly, launder money and, transfers and cash payments and all these different things that, again, the average person would not. And the thing that's so concerning with that is that points to me that either it's, again, tying it back to CIA, Mossad, or both. I'm thinking more likely both. And in that, you have to think that they also know about his pedophilia, about that he was possibly running a blackmail ring with, using these girls. And so what does that tell us about these institutions, including the CIA, and how are we okay with the fact that the CIA is allowing a pedophilia ring to be run, including on people using girls in the United States and from abroad, but using girls in the United States to compromise U.S. residents? Literally, they're performing operations on U.S. residents on U.S. soil. How are we okay with that? How is anyone okay with that? And this just proves it. Why would a bank go along with it unless someone like the CIA or an organization like the CIA told them this is okay, let him continue operating? Same thing with the sweetheart deal. It's just it just proves that I would think the CIA, because how else would the Mossad isn't going to have as strong of an influence in the American system, right? Yes, there is a lot, and I complain about it a lot, about Israel's influence on the U.S., but the reason that he's able to get away with it, and it's so perverse, and it's so over so many different judicial, with the judges, finance here with JP Morgan, it just, again, is baffling to me, and just proves in my mind that, yeah, the U.S. government is completely implicated in this and was aware it was going on.
Who has been at the forefront of this and talking about the suspicious activity reports and other documents that are held right now by the Treasury Department. This is the heart of the real Epstein story. Where'd the money come from? Who was he sending it to? For what purposes? Why did Leon Black pay him $170 million? Why? Nobody can answer that question seriously. And
and why did he get away with it? That's the other thing too. And the reason I was saying what I was there about it has to be the CIA is because even if you imagine, okay, he blackmailed Jamie Dimon or whoever, right? The leadership, whatever leadership at JP Morgan. Even if he blackmailed them, he still is getting the sweetheart deal, essentially. So that's just it, is there has to be something above and beyond that is allowing him to get away with these types of things over and over and over. And I can't imagine that it's, it could be that each individual group was blackmailed, but then what does that also say about each one of those? What does that say about JP Morgan? Again, very concerning to say the least.
the unexplored nature that potentially holds the key to this entire thing.
Yeah, Wexner had an entry in the birthday book. He said,
course he did.
I wanted to give you, what you wanted for your birthday, and he drew a picture of some boobs. So
Right.
that was his
Classy.
contribution. It could go deeper with Jess Staley too, who there were many people at JP Morgan who ultimately protected Epstein. I don't want to say it was just this one dude, but this one dude was one of the, if not
He
the
was
most
central. Yeah.
influential. And we've also talked about this on the show previously. These emails between them were revealed. Let me read you the relevant section from the New York Times. They say Staley emailed Epstein while sipping white wine in the hot tub on the island. Quote, "Next time we're here together," he wrote, "I owe you much." Other messages were littered with apparent sexual references. "That was fun. Say hi to Snow White," Staley emailed in 2010. Epstein responded by asking which character he would like next. "Beauty and the Beast," Staley answered. So it could be that, certainly part of how Epstein is allowed to remain a JP Morgan customer, even after, that all of his transactions are being flagged, and even after the non-prosecution agreement where he serves time in prison, whatever, is because of the money that he's bringing in. He's introducing them to Netanyahu, he's introducing them to Elon Musk, all of these big business deals, Bill Gates, etc.
That I kind of doubt, because the problem is, and again, she just highlighted it, right? One of the dudes is already participating, but the other thing too is if you get caught, you're screwed. You're shut down, right? And I don't know how they're not now. They have the financial records. Like how are they still operating? Why aren't they shut down? This is literally flagrant. Like I said, there's so many red lines that have been crossed with all of the transactions that he was doing. So how is JP Morgan even still in operation? Makes no sense to me. They should have been shut down. This is insane. But yeah, that argument doesn't make as much sense to me, especially given the argument that she just made, which is, of course, he's directly implicated. But again, I think because of the umbrella of things that he's gotten away with, I think it's even bigger than that. But that is obviously a component of it.
That's certainly part of it, but part of it could also be, what did Epstein know about Staley? What activities was he involved in? And that could have been part of the modus operandi. And certainly Epstein's collecting of these powerful people, that was another thing, is they would say to each other internally within the bank, well, if all these rich and powerful people trust him, then who are we to throw him out on the street? So that actively was used as a protection mechanism. Lastly, just to go back to the Republican Party, the Mike Johnson thing, which is wild. It strikes me as just, they're so desperate to get out from under this, to somehow jiu-jitsu this into Trump is actually the good guy here somehow, even though he's longtime friends with Epstein, and we've got this birthday book thing, and he won't release the files, and we know his name's in the files, all of this stuff. They're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. So Mike Johnson put this thing out here. People were like, what are you talking about? That's ridiculous. And then he had to be like, I misspoke. I didn't mean it.
And or like I had said, he had a conversation, they had a meeting. They have regular meetings, and at some point someone said, oh, well, I'm sure, or Trump said, oh, well, I provided information to the FBI when they came. So then he took it and ran with it and said, oh, yeah, he was an FBI informant. The whole thing is troubling, to say the least. But yeah, it just shows that, yeah, they probably are having conversation. As I've said in one of my previous videos, yeah, they probably are meeting regularly after the debacle that it has been so far. And, now they're trying to rally the troops and figure out how we should present it. Because when everyone's left to their own devices, no one knows how to talk about it because there's no defense of it. It's completely indefensible. So, yeah, just another wild claim, and it makes sense how you got there if you think about it in those terms as I have framed it.
That way, okay, Mr. Speaker of the House, you don't know what it means to be an FBI informant, sure. But we also need to recall the way J.D. Vance originally responded to the birthday book revelations. He was not the only one, but he went particularly hard in the paint. Can put B6 up on the screen. This is when the first Wall Street Journal story came out that just described the birthday book. And he says, "Forgive my language, this story is complete and utter bullshit. The Wall Street Journal should be ashamed for publishing it. Where is this letter? Would you be shocked to learn they never showed it to us before publishing it? Does anyone honestly believe this sounds like Donald Trump?"
All right, now let's see what his response is now that the letter actually has been released. I'm sure it will be just as sane and coherent.
They went hard on this story, Saagar, as you'll recall, at the time, adamant that this was fake, that it was a forgery, that the letter doesn't exist, etc. And now we have it. We can all see it with our eyes. And they're desperately trying to go with this, oh, well, that's not his real signature. It's just unbelievable the way they will lie to people and think that you are so dumb that you will actually believe that, this was all invented and, it's a plant and it was Hillary or Comey or whatever. And it's just wild to me, the brazen nature of the way they will lie and spin and obfuscate and grasp at straws in order to make not just this story, but any story that's uncomfortable for them go away.
There's only one defense, and it's not a good one, is that they shared a 22-year-old legal but creepy girlfriend, and that's what all the things were about, and he was aware of it, and he was connected to him for many years, and then they fell out over a stolen spa employee, and who he then groomed, and according to Virginia Giuffre, obviously was abused for many years. Not exactly a tale of White Knight, exactly, and so
And here's the thing: is that actually is the smartest. I mean, that's the safest route you could take, where basically you write it off and you somehow are able to claim that despite your connections with him, despite this weird entry in the birthday book, despite flying on the Lolita Express, despite all these different things, oh, by the way, like this is what it was, that is what he could claim, but I guarantee you, he does not want to take the reputational hit of everyone going, like that's creepy and weird. He doesn't even want to admit to that. He literally is so concerned with his own image that he will not duck under and completely evade the accusations of pedophilia, which is just an amazing view into Donald Trump's mind. Because yeah, you literally could get out of the line of fire if you just, oh yeah, we were both seeing the same girl and, whatever, the whole story right there. But he won't even do that. Like, he is such a narcissist. It is wild to me. Again, you just save yourself, man. Get out of the line of fire as quickly as you can. Turn the focus on someone else, but he just simply cannot do that.
They have to resort. Their highest and best defense is just to release everything, because then you're just one of many people kind of caught up in the web, and we can look for all sorts of connections that may or may not just include Donald Trump, but include everybody. But that's the tack that they've chosen. A lot of people can see through it. A lot of people who are interested in this story are extremely fed up with the Trump administration's handling it, and they should be. They absolutely should be.
And that's basically what I wanted to cover on this story. Like I said, very interesting. I do highly suggest, if you have the stomach for it, going and looking at the birthday book yourself, seeing the entries. Like I said, it's very damning. I kind of was debating including it onto this video, but I do not want to expose people to those types of content if you're not comfortable with it. So again, if you need any further convincing that this was not a good dude, that everyone knew what he was up to, again, incredibly damning, even before he was picked up and everyone knew, because he was, he got the sweetheart deal from the courts. But it paints a very clear picture, and I don't know how anyone can argue anything other than what this looks like and in fact is. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you find my content interesting, drop me a subscription below. It really does help my channel grow. And if you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will See you in the next one.